Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing The Intruder. What's the name of this movie, right, John? The Intruder?
Correct.
Does that sound right? Starring Megan Good, this other guy whose face I recognize but I don't know his name.
Michael Ealy.
Yep, and a just wild-eyed Dennis Quaid, which I'm sure will be the subject of much discussion tonight. Also of discussion, Schnars thinks he grew facial hair and it's really cute, so please welcome John to the show. Baby's first goatee.
This is just for you, buddy.
Yeah, it's great.
Just for you, friend.
I want you to go back and watch the video of this show afterwards because I can barely see it. It's like a
What
hint.
if I get really close to my camera?
It's disgusting. Please back away. Next up on the show, coming to us from Hotlanta, Georgia. You know what I can see on the stream? Her fire purple nails tonight.
Blue.
I love it.
Fire purple?
They look like purple from here.
Oh.
Please
I think it was fire, purple.
Yes, thank you.
They
Yes.
are fire
There
and
we
also
go.
purple.
Yeah.
Please
They are pretty fire, I have to say.
Please welcome Cece to the show.
Hello.
Next up, just wearing a plain black t-shirt. It's coming to us from Indiana. Please welcome Casey.
Hi. And it's not black.
It's NASA, got it. Last up tonight.
Wait.
Last up tonight from somewhere in the south. He's bringing,
Close enough, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
It's all the same.
You've
to
only
me.
known this for a decade.
It's all the same to me. Bringing that sophistical flavor here this evening to talk about this very highbrow movie. Please welcome John Shelton to the show.
Yeah, I'm glad you pulled me on for this real,
I
masterpiece of
Banger.
I wouldn't want to break the streak of us pulling you in for the least appropriate movies possible.
nice. Well, good job.
So yeah, we're here to talk about The Intruder. This is one that we missed in theaters, and we felt.
Well, that was my first question. Did this actually play in theaters?
It did.
Oh, yeah.
It did.
Why
yeah.
don't
We have a
release?
giant billboard for it still in Atlanta.
What?
There you go.
It's on. Oh, because it's on video maybe now.
No, I think it's just still up from it being in theaters.
No, it's actually still in.
That was their
theaters.
entire promotion budget, was that one billboard.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can you get it for 12 months?
They got the long-term rate.
But this was one I rallied for, John. I felt like we needed to know what this. I mean, and this is, and we'll talk about it when we get to the review. But this is the year of like old Gen X / Boomers like terrorizing millennials / like Gen Yers in just the most uncomfortable ways possible. And if only I could suss out where the societal vein that this might be being tapped from, John. If only I could figure that out.
I did research this briefly, and this is not review content necessarily. Michael Ealy, so the guy, the main guy here, not Dennis Quaid. How old do you think he is?
I would say like
Oh,
38,
wait.
39.
No, wait. Hold on. You're talking about the guy, the husband.
Correct.
47.
Correct. He's
What?
Wow.
46 this year.
I'm so good at that. I know.
You should get a job at Six Flags.
So it's
First
it's
of
like
all, Schnars, you wouldn't ask if it wasn't something unexpected, right?
Well, yeah, it's more like Dennis Quaid terrorizing someone who's like 14 years younger. Actually,
Well,
Dennis
that's
Quaid's
why
older.
I say. I mean, if he's 46, that's got to be Gen X at least, right?
Yeah. Whatever the Gen, I don't know.
It's
I don't
gotta be.
keep track of
It's
them,
gotta
really.
No, I was Gen X, so yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. But no, I think he's probably
contemporary is what I'm trying to say.
he's probably playing a little younger here, and I gotta say, the man is handsome AF. So he's killing it.
Those are some striking blue eyes, is all I can say.
For real.
No, nothing against them. They talk about having kids a lot in this movie because it's like supposed to be they're like not newlyweds, but they like are, and so that's what made me look it up because I'm like I'm pretty sure this guy is like kind of old.
Well,
So,
and so his wife is played by Megan Good, who might be 30. Like she was a child actress.
She's 37.
Really?
Shut up.
Correct.
Good for her.
Good for
Yeah.
her.
She looks
Wow.
amazing.
Stunning.
You know, I did a lot of research while I was watching this movie because I was like,
She
It does
really
lend itself to that.
she really is stunning. Like literally somebody in Slack was like, I couldn't even watch the movie because she's so beautiful. I just couldn't like even focus on what was happening.
I thought you said that.
No. It was
No,
somebody
it
else.
was Darren, I think.
Yeah, it was somebody else.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Boomers harassing people slightly younger than
Yeah.
boomers.
All I'm saying is, John, that well, listen, for the sake of the movie, right? Let's say they're millennials, okay? It's weird towards the end of the movie,
fellow
John.
kids.
Towards the end of the movie, John, Dennis Quaid seems to be wearing a conspicuous red hat, and if I could only figure out the connection there
Yeah.
to put it together, I don't. There's something there. We'll have to suss it out later.
We'll dig into it later.
Yeah.
Are you trying to imply he's a big Limp Bizkit fan?
Yeah. We're very lucky tonight, guys, because we have John Shelton here. John, people may not know this, but you are the trivia master.
I have done at least one other trivia.
You
event,
actually
so
have this. You actually have it tattooed across your chest,
Yes.
and
yeah.
you make your wife call you that too.
It's hyphenated. It's real weird, but you know.
I told you to call me the
How I like to
trivia
roll.
master. But then we got this meetup coming up in September in Chicago, and you are cultivating from the ground up an all-new trivia experience for horror fans that show up to this thing.
I am.
Can you
I
give
have
us a little sneak peek of your process?
3D, I heard this time.
Yeah, it's like a fully immersive. I'm gonna squirt water on people.
Smell-o-vision.
IMAX. You know, you got to come with it. It's the sequel, so it's actually diminishing returns. But
Can
you know,
we do scratch and sniff trivia? I'm gonna just put that out there.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this offline.
Very nice. John,
Eric,
what's that date that we're doing that, and where can people find the info?
that date is the weekend of September 20th. We are doing it in Chicago, as you mentioned. Chi City, Chirac, the Windy City.
I like how all three of those you missed Chi-Town, which was the one I would have gone with off the bat.
I
there.
thought somebody used that earlier. I didn't want to repeat. You can find information on a little website, bloodygoodhorror.com. You could also, we haven't tested this, but I'm going to keep using it and we'll see how it goes. If you Google Spooktoberfest, I'm pretty sure you're going to find all the information
Wow.
because we feel comfortable that we created the whole idea of Spooktoberfest, and
no
so
one's
it's not
no
like
one's
it's
ever
just-
done it. No one's ever
No,
done it
no.
before. There's
Yeah,
no way.
so-
Yeah.
yeah, so it's going to be good. We're having a lot of fun. There will be a Patreon member supporter event on Friday night, which any patron at any level can get the information to that. Then Saturday, as you mentioned, I believe 4:00 is the gate, as they say, for our trivia event, and it's gonna be a hot time.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, John. Really quickly, you guys want to talk about? There's an upcoming Sophistical, and then let's talk about some Dequaid because I'm into it. I'm ready.
Yeah, we do have a Sophisticult that will be dropping tomorrow at some point. Where we talked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the new Tarantino movie,
Oh.
and also Point Blank.
I
which
hear
is an
lots
old
of
Lee Marvin.
Lots of opinions on that movie. I almost muted it.
It's a movie that that lends itself to opinions.
I almost muted it added it to my ever-growing list of muted words on Twitter.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which
But
word
if you
would
want to unmute a couple of people, me and Andy had a nice discussion about it the other day, and yeah, so look for that in your feed.
John, what was that?
What words were you going to mute to make sure? Can you mute like the whole phrase, or were
You can do phrases. I probably would have done the whole title and then maybe Tarantino or something. I don't know. I have a voluminous list of words, mostly political. Pretty much any political topic is banned from my Twitter. So any kind of names, I blocked a lot of like people that I don't like have any. Sometimes it's like this person's a scumbag, so I don't want to see like retweets or anything. But sometimes it's like I like this person, but I don't like. I've made the decision for myself that Twitter is not a political platform, and I've taken it upon myself to use the muted words to basically.
You're the only person in America.
to-
who's
So your
been-
whole Twitter feed is just that like weird Friday the 13th Blu-ray cover.
It's horror movies, and it's horror movies and vintage video games, and when something sneaks through, I am like I'm like the exterminator in Night Shift. I'm just like
Gotta
I'm
get
gonna.
at the root.
I am, yeah, exactly. Out root and stem, just rip it out.
Well,
It's It's exhausting, if I'm being
yeah,
honest.
you're having a different Twitter experience than everyone.
I will say though, like once you get there, it's worth it. It makes it a lot less stressful.
I want to see the sort of hilarious
I'll screenshot it.
false
for you.
negatives that you hit where like you've like muted a word, but then like if Tarantino, I don't know, something like terrible happened to him, you wouldn't
Sometimes,
know about it.
I do think about that because sometimes I'll mute phrases just to weed out certain like current news events that are driving me nuts. But like, there's definitely things in there that would, but I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Like it's Twitter. There's a billion thoughts every day. If I'm missing a few random ones, like they can't possibly be worth anything, John. So
Well, I mean, listen, you're talking to the guy who signed out of Twitter and it's just like done with this forever.
I mean, that's the thing is at the end of the day, like everything on Twitter is completely worthless. So like, just show me fun, worthless things, and if I miss a couple, like who gives a shit? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, John? I kind of want.
You've matured, Eric. I don't say that enough, probably, but you're just a mature Eric these days.
Sure. I've buried my head deeper in the sand. How's that?
Whatever it takes, guys.
Yeah, it's great. All right, guys, it is time. Speaking of mature, let's talk about some Dennis Quaid here. Let's take a quick break and discuss The Intruder.
This is it, Senator. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
John Schnars,
Eric.
you have the facial hair of a I'm generously calling it facial hair. You have the facial hair of a person that doesn't know words. I just want to I want that said for the record tonight. But I don't think it's directly affected your brain, so I think you might still know words. Is that safe?
The volume of beers that I've consumed. We should mention I'm on vacation. This is the vacation facial hair situation. But it's also the vacation start drinking at 4:30 in the afternoon.
I feel like you're trying to cosplay as a poor person, but the closest thing you can get to in your head is like Joe Dirt.
He's got a real Morgan Spurlock thing going.
It's the Hulkinator is what I've been calling it. So
I want to know how mad your wife is because she thinks that we talked you into doing it.
she's not super duper pleased. She's not upset at you all. I can assure you. We went to her grandmother's house today, and so
I would like to start a new Patreon
Not
goal.
ideal.
I'd like to start a new Patreon goal. Like if we raise this certain amount, Schnars doesn't shave for 6 months just so we can see what it looks like.
no, but I do I have to work. Like I have to maintain. Like
I like how you
you're-
act like it's going to be any significant growth whatsoever.
dude,
Guys, I can't work like that.
whether or not it's significant, it would be comical looking.
Well, that's why I want to. Clearly, that's why we're going to do it.
All right, I could probably sell this to my boss. So let's.
Yeah, dude, you work for a
It-
podcasting
it's
company.
a high
now.
number. It's got to
I
be.
mean,
a high.
I work in a corporate America with a beard every day, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to start writing this post up after we're off the air here, and we're going to new goal, shake up Patreon.
There we go. All right, fine, fair enough.
Anyway, John, let's see if you still know words. Please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is impinge. That's Impinge. Impinge can mean to have an effect or impact, especially a negative one. Can also mean advance over an area belonging to someone or something else. Encroach. It comes to us from the Latin in, I think everyone knows what in means, and then pungare,
Ooh.
which means to fix or drive. Mid-16th century, impingare, drive something in or at.
I'm going to be honest. I'm pretty sure Joe would have a pretty good joke for that, but I got nothing tonight. What does that have to do with this movie?
Well,
I could guess.
The Intruder, directed by Dion Taylor, written by David Lowery. I think it's Lowery. I'm going to go Lowery here. And as we mentioned, starring Michael Ealy, Megan Good, and Eric's new, I don't know, man crush, Dennis Quaid.
I wouldn't go that far.
The high level here is you've got Michael Ealy and Megan Good. They are a quote-unquote young couple buying their first home.
Listen, they pull it off, so let's just give it to them.
Whatever works. They, they're buying a home in Napa. They work in San Francisco. They want to buy sort of a, I don't know, country house, but it's like something they're going to live in full time. And they buy it from Dennis Quaid, and he's just sort of your friendly neighborhood old dude who's
Wackadoodle.
shooting deer in front of them. But very quickly after buying this house and moving in, and he moves out, it becomes clear that he's not sort of done with the house. He's not ready to let it go. He keeps showing up. He develops a fascination with Megan, or Annie, I guess is her name. He impinges on their relationship and on their peace of mind. So yeah, I mean that's the very basic setup. I don't know that there's like a ton else. I mean, so he is claiming that he is going to be moving to Florida to live with his daughter, and that his wife had passed away. Both of those things are revealed to be untruths, shall we say, over time, and yeah, wackiness ensues.
Thank you, John. Hey, Cece.
Yeah.
You were first out of the gate with thoughts on this movie and just your deep discomfort with Dennis Quaid. How did you end up netting out on this?
I will say Dennis Quaid does a very good job of being super creepy and unsettling in this film. I mean, you know, Megan Good and Michael Ealy and Dennis Quaid are all pretty good actors, and it's not that they did a bad job, because the movie's okay. It's just, you know, it's just a good attempt at a B movie, I'll say.
Okay.
I don't think I was as bored as some other people, but, you know, part of that was because I was so disturbed by how creepy as hell Dennis Quaid was being.
Casey.
Yes, Dennis Quaid was exceptionally creepy, but overall this movie was not my my bag. I was kind of bored. I thought there was a lot of buildup that wasn't very interesting or exciting, and a whole lot of info dumps to get us to wacky over-the-top Dennis Quaid. I think everybody acting-wise was fine. I just think the script wasn't very beefy, and it was really drug the flick down.
Shelton.
Yeah, this was pretty mediocre overall. It had a real like kind of random movie you would rent at Blockbuster.
Totally.
Like
yeah.
in the late 90s. Like I said over email, this felt like the kind of thing I would like end up watching with my parents, like at their house, that they would put on and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Might you say this is fine? It's fine.
Fine, yeah, fine. But I mean, not fine like Crawl, because Crawl fucking ruled. This is
Just
fine in like
Crawl's fine.
like fine
It's
way.
fine.
But yeah, it's Dennis Quaid's really good. The movie itself is just it's just a movie.
John Schnars.
This was fine in that there were people saying things to one another, and the pictures moved around, and occasionally there was sound. No, I mean, so I think this movie is objectively not good. It is more fun than I was expecting.
Yeah.
That's what I guess would be the nicest way to say it. I mean, the Dennis Quaid thing, they leaned on it pretty hard in the trailer. It was definitely the reason I think we all agreed to see this movie. And I would say that it mostly like the Dennis Quaid part mostly works. I actually think to say that the rest of the acting in this movie is good is like very generous. There are...
Did anybody say that? I think it's you know what it is, John?
I said Michael Ealy and Megan Good. I didn't
Yeah, I
say
thought they were. I
everybody.
thought they
Yeah,
were
I
decent.
said they were
I
fine.
thought they were decent.
I see, but like fine and
They're not
decent are
given-
like positive ways to
They're not.
describe it.
They're
I
not
would say
given
they
a
are-
lot. I think they
They had
did.
some steamy love-making scenes down by
Oh,
the fireplace.
This
so
movie
there's
is.
that.
This movie is so horny.
There's a lot of sexy feelings coursing through this movie. No, I mean, okay, so you're right in that I do. If I had to lay the failure of this film on anything, it's 100% the script, because it's the joke that I had been workshopping since I finished watching. This is a Skinamax movie that basically didn't get made. They found it and were like, yeah, we could probably pull this off in the theater.
That's
But
pretty.
no tits.
That's pretty.
But, well,
That's pretty apt.
Everybody keeps their underwear on.
That's definitely a pretty apt comparison, Schnars. I would just like to point out for the record that's not actually a joke. You just said a statement.
hold on. Is it? Can we not just do kind of statement comedy anymore?
That's
No.
not, it's not a
He's
thing.
on pain meds. Just let him
Sure,
ride.
guys.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing, I think the litmus test we should all take is where you land on the friend, Mike. In it.
Oh.
Okay, he was ridiculous.
He was hilarious.
I honest to God didn't think he was a professional actor, and I went
Dude.
and looked, and he actually has been.
Bro,
in it.
I've done some research and look what I
His-
found.
His interactions with Quaid are so stupid, and I friggin' loved every one of them. It's like I could have watched a whole movie with just the two of them, like talking to each other in subtext. It was so funny.
Yeah. I think he was far more intimidating than Quaid ever was, or aggressive anyways.
Well, until he got confronted, and then he just like quiver and pile of jello there. Yeah, Dennis Quaid is like a really interesting case, and I think like we talked about this years ago, like 2012 or something, when that movie Pandorum came out. That basically like there was a period, what younger people may not know, or people who don't kind of follow this stuff. Like there was a period where this dude was like, if not A-list actor, like pretty close. Like he was a pretty respectable actor. And then it's only been about the last decade where the quality of projects he's taken on is just, he seems to just be one of those dudes who's just taken on everything, which like more power to him. Like it's good for you. But I think in the process, like he's stopped getting the slightly more respectable roles that he had before. And John was saying, I don't know if we've ever seen him as a villain like this, but like this performance is like, it's not good in this. It's like good in the way it's like good in the way that a modern day like Pacino performance is good. It's like, and not even I'm saying on that level, but just in the way of like it's entertaining. Like
It's big. There's a lot
it's
of it.
big. That's the perfect. It's extra, as the kids would say. But it's like from the second from the second he gets on screen, where like they're walking through the woods and he shoots a deer. First of all, that is not proper hunting etiquette, John, at all.
No.
And he,
just firing guns
he,
willy-nilly.
he shoots the deer 5 feet in front of them, and then like runs out of the woods wild-eyed, like he's on all the cocaine. And like from that
So much
moment on,
cocaine.
I loved every moment of him on screen. And like I actually think there's moments where he is pretty menacing, but it's always like teetering on being funny to me in a way that I really enjoyed. Like I legit was laughing out loud at specifically the scene where him and the friend, like their first little confrontation out by the statue, where the friend puts a cigarette out on the statue, and the look on Quaid's face was so funny. Like just him trying to act really angry, like thinly veiled anger. But I think like, Shelton's point of just calling, I think mediocre is probably one, the most cutting, and two, probably the most apt like single word you could use to describe this movie. I think it's like a really batshit crazy fun performance sandwiched around like a pretty milquetoast, like middle of the road. Like this is very 90s thriller. And like this,
Oh, yeah.
the
yeah, 100%.
Skinamax thing is also very interesting because like there's two, I think, separate sex scenes where literally it's like literally everything stops and this like sexy R&B comes on and they are just humping. And this director is filming it lovingly. Like this guy,
Yeah.
like to the point where I'm like, if you told me this dude used to direct softcore in the 90s, I'd be like, oh, this guy is 100%. He knows what he's doing. Like this guy's an auteur.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, why is the scene that long? It's
Wha-
very
I
strange.
mean,
The sex
why-
scene in the kitchen
I would say
is so bizarre.
I would say, why not, John?
But all of
yeah.
these type of movies had those like extended
Yeah.
sex scenes,
Yeah,
the
for-
sexy
for-
thrillers of like the 90s, where they like, you know, they hump in slow motion and a
Yeah.
lot of like close-ups of
John,
gliding.
you know why? Because watching people hump is awesome. It's really simple.
Yeah, no, it's true. Everyone can get down with that. I agree.
That's
but
what I'm saying. I don't like when you
it's-
say it like that, but okay. So yeah, I like whatever it was, and again, like I think I realize more and more as I get older, or I'm willing to admit more and more as I get older that like, a lot of the movies like this that are very middle of the road, how I receive them really has a lot to do with like me on that given day. You know what I mean? Like whatever it was, I brought something to this thing last night, which is actually weird because I was having a bad night. Long story, and I'm not gonna tell, but it's like
we don't want to hear it either way. So.
I thought this movie was funny. I was like pretty in it. I was enjoying the tension. I wasn't like being blown away at any point. You know, if I have a complaint, like it really should have. They're really going for the slow burn thing that they're not like up to, and it should have popped off sooner. And they should have maybe added a few more people in the mix so that, or I don't know, or just like it should have amped up sooner, I guess is my point. Like
there's no people in this movie.
there's fully 3 scenes where Quaid shows up and has dinner with Megan Good when Dennis Quaid isn't around. You probably only needed one of those to get the point across that this guy's crossing boundaries, right? But then like but we finally get to the third act and you think like you've seen what Quaid is given you, and then it's just like that knob goes up to 11 and everything.
And he takes off his shirt watching somebody in the shower, and it's off to the races from there.
Okay, can we talk about that scene? I was like, what the fuck was he thinking? Was he going to get in the shower with her?
And it just like ended. I don't.
He licked his lips.
And
no.
And then he literally gets frightened off like a squirrel.
Because I think the husband comes home. I don't know. Somebody else knocks, or no, yeah, because that then immediately dovetails into him bringing her a pizza.
Yeah.
Because she's in the room.
Well, I saw you in the shower.
But it's definitely the pizza scene where I was like, guys, how many scenes do we need of him bringing her food to get this point across? Like,
Well,
I understand what's happening, okay?
And this thing so I think Sheldon brought this up over email, and it's something I've been thinking about because it didn't necessarily like register while I was watching it, but it the wife is like incompetent or impotent or she's made
So
up
nice.
to be so
I mean, I've definitely seen this. I've definitely seen this character like trope before, but it is played up to a ridiculous degree where like she literally doesn't suspect or like she just thinks he's a little eccentric and is not worried about him at all until he straight up like
He's
licks
being
her.
full on creeper, and she just kind of like
Until he
he's
straight
just
up
lonely. Oh, he's just a sad old man.
until he
I
straight
think-
up licks her face.
The funny thing about it is like it's not you don't see this anymore because we like live in a way more sort of like progressive media environment.
You just assume
This
in
dude's
this
a creep.
a modern day written character assumes this guy's a creep from moment one because all
Well,
guys are
and,
creeps.
You just wouldn't see a female character written this helplessly. You know, I mean, like
And like naive.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's just, because she's more or less like she actually doesn't have a job, but she's like a like professionally educated woman. She's not like they don't set her up to be a moron.
She talks about the articles she writes or like about racial injustice, and you're like, okay,
That's
great,
right.
cool. So you're like,
Never brought up again.
Yeah.
Never brought up
but
again.
yeah, that's it. You never see her working. You never see her doing anything except house duties, and then getting creeped on by.
Yeah, like you couldn't have
Oh,
you couldn't
yeah.
have seen you couldn't have given me a single scene with her on a laptop and just like made up a
Right?
fake headline about
I mean,
like
Dennis Quaid could have been like chilling
You could've
behind the
bought her
laptop.
some,
Or
nuggets
at
or
least
something.
once have her, roll her eyes and say, "Jesus Christ, he's back again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a typical male, meaning I know signals exist. I don't know what they are, but even I can tell by watching this guy, and he shows up for the third day in a row with food. There's something going on.
yeah,
here.
it's
Yeah, he's all crazy eyes inviting himself to Thanksgiving.
John, did you want to talk about the husband and the portrayal of what an ad executive is or whatever his job is? I thought he was a salesperson. I didn't even get the like.
So all right.
Isn't
so
that technically what he was, though?
at some point they describe him as a creative director at an advertising agency. Now, to your point, they do reference that he is the quote unquote best earner at the company, which basically means he's like closing the most business. But he's portrayed
It's hashtag business, John. Okay, it's
well,
business.
and so I was very upset that Joe wasn't going to be on the show because Joe actually works at a creative agency and would have had a lot of opinions about how this was played out. I have worked at other agencies, not creative agencies, and like it's not that it's like completely insane, but like it definitely shows a lack of understanding of like the agency sort of like environment and like the types of people that work in agencies. That like this guy, the fact that he had, and maybe Casey can speak to, the fact that he had a quote unquote IT guy who could literally find out everything he needed him to find out about. Now, he might have just been running Google searches. It's like unclear what this IT guy's doing, but it was just very strange. And then his friend Mike is basically like a body man, but then also works at the agency. Like, it was
Dude, I fucking love the friend so much. And actually, he might have been, it might have been because he reminded me of my friends in that scene when he was outside pissing outside for no reason whatsoever. I really love too when he gets called out on it later and his friend's like, dude, there's like 8 toilets in this house. You couldn't have pissed in one of them.
I just like, he basically was there to hype the Michael Ealy character. Oh, you're right, Sky. You're right. You're always seeing ahead. Like,
did anyone else notice like the 2 real Shining vibey moments in this movie? So there's one moment where he's breaking through the door and like literally sticks his head through the thing. It's like framed exactly the way. But then really, I thought that, and well, spoiler alert, the friend, he doesn't make it, John. But he
Spoiler.
I
The fourth
felt
person in the movie, you
I
mean?
felt like that scene felt very reminiscent to me of the Grady death from The Shining in the sense that it's with an axe. He hits him in the same spot. It's very much like a surprise hit to the chest with an axe. It's just
That's
that
true.
it's a bold
I mean,
move.
it was really a surprise. He was carrying the axe, chasing him.
Yeah.
No,
Conversation,
it wasn't the
and then he
exact
axes him.
it wasn't the exact same setup, but I just after already seeing that other Shining thing, it just like stuck out to me.
What was the point of the cigarette? Because he told him earlier that he didn't smoke. He gave it up 30 years ago. And then he's like, can I have one of those?
That
I
whole
think
scene,
I'll save it for
Because he
later.
put the cigarette burn in his car's
car,
upholstery.
yeah.
But that was
I think
before.
was-
That was
that
when he
was
got
early.
axed.
that whole
But I
scene
think
was
that
so
was
weird.
just his way of like telling him like, yo, I put it out on your seat.
Like, but was there a question? I don't know.
I think Dennis Quaid might have improv'd every line in this movie.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I hope he did.
Like that scene in particular goes on for so long. I think it's like a work of art, like in like an Upright Citizens Brigade kind of way.
But it's weird. This movie's 150 minutes, 145 minutes, sorry,
No,
hour
it's
45
not.
minutes.
It's not that long.
No, 100 hour and 45 minutes. Like, it's not like if
Yeah,
this
it's
was an
pretty-
hour 25, I could see them being like, hey, could you think we could squeeze a little bit more out of this? No, you guys just made me think of this though. So is Mike the only death in the entire movie?
No, well, I mean, you
Aside
see
from
the wife.
The
Yeah.
wife.
Oh yeah. All right. That's a flashback death.
Sort
I
of.
don't really
Yeah.
count that one, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't even think of it, and then this might be the lowest body count of a movie we've seen this
Well,
year.
technically, I mean, you see his death.
There's a
So-
lot of real bad
Spoiler alert.
There's a lot of
Jesus.
real bad B movie.
How else would it have ended?
There's a lot of bad.
He makes good right off into the sunset
Yeah.
together.
You're an intruder.
Oh, dude, that would have been a great twist. There's a lot of like real bad B movie decisions in this movie. Like John mentioned, like just everything Megan Good does is just not sound judgment. But then, so the husband confronts Quaid and basically has laid his cards on the table, right? So he thinks this guy's psycho. He knows he has guns. He thinks he's stalking his wife. And he lays out the cards on the table and basically threatens him at the bar. And he's like, you stay away from my house.
That was the one scene I was
Oh.
like super into.
After this, we have to get into this whole gun thing. Actually, I forgot because this is like hugely important to this movie. But like, so then the next scene, he decides to go running pre-dawn. It's like maybe 4 a.m. based on the
Yeah.
sunlight on this like deserted road with no shoulders. And he gets hit and Quaid like runs him down in his truck. It's like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen, dude? Like, it's just like he wasn't operating the way and then they're at the hospital, right? He thinks Quaid ran him over with his truck. Okay, that's bad, in case you need me to tell you that. He sends Megan Good home by herself to chill at the house. Because
I thought he was going to have a
What?
girl come visit him because he was being super shady and we knew
Yeah,
that he had
that
cheated
was-
on her. he was like, don't worry, honey, you get on out of here. Like what are you doing? Like trying to make it with the nurse?
That to me was just weird because there's a disconnect. It was almost like those
Yeah.
scenes were shot out of order or something, because I just like, if you've confronted Dennis Quaid, there's no way that you're not in full-on paranoid mode and will not let her
Well,
alone ever.
Yeah, especially if you start to think that he ran you off the road. Like, why? Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
That-
You think he
Yeah.
tried?
it makes zero sense.
You think
Well, the
he
weirdo's
tried
been
to
showing
kill
up at his
you?
house for like 4 days uninvited at this point.
Yeah.
So
it's
even
crazy.
then, you're like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to send you home alone.
The house is literally the last place on earth you want her to be alone right now. It's just that whole scene felt very weird to me, weirdly scripted.
Did they hint to Michael being a philanderer before the movie started, or did I miss that?
I don't think so.
Wasn't there
it-
some mention of him having cheated on her at some point?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a
because he-
conversation
Okay.
about it.
Yeah, there's a conversation.
So
Because some of that felt tacked on, as well as, to me, like a large part. Well, I still didn't like the movie either way, but when they're going on about setting up about Randy Quaid being obsessed with this house that's been with his family and the stuff with his wife and stuff like that.
I mean-
but then also he was into Megan Good, which seems like it was tacked
I
on.
think the point though is that it sort of like gives Dennis Quaid an opening, like because Dennis Quaid sees that there's this tension between them, and he's trying to exploit it basically. Like that's the reason why it's
I was
there.
going to go the other. Well, not the other way. I think you're right. The way I would frame it though is that the infidelity stuff at least was like a patina of or of reason for Megan Good to be like
Want
latched
a
onto this
friend.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of what they were trying to allude to, is that she was blind to the fact that he was giving her all this creepy attention, because it was kind of like, well, I know that my husband's out flirting with people at work, so this is my
Yeah.
way of like,
Even though so I got to give kudos to the girl who played his interest that was, at the office, the client, who was Joe from Eureka. Kudos to her for that. They have this whole thing about Megan Good being, upset because she knows he's out at the bar with the client, and so she figures it's a girl, and that girl tries to kiss him. I don't know that I saw him flirt with her at all in any of the scenes they had together.
Oh no, he was. Oh, he totally.
Was he?
Oh, he totally
in the
was.
ones at the office,
In the meeting
there
at the
was some, like,
office, it was definitely
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Well, then refer back to my earlier statement of knowing signs exist, but I have no idea what they are.
All right, that's fair. No, he was definitely like,
I'm pretty sure
How
they
about-
were like, they like touched at some
he was
point. Like, I
definitely
don't know if
like,
it was like,
how about I open my pants and show you my report or something? Like, it was more subtle
I
than
mean,
that.
it wasn't that direct. But
It was
yeah.
more subtle now, but they shared a moment at the office for sure,
That's-
which
guys,
is why she thinks there's something going on. I think.
That's just how advertising works, guys.
Yeah, man,
That's
you
just
know,
what creates,
it's like
that's what
math.
creative
Sexy,
directors-
sexy business.
It's like
Yeah,
Mad
that's
Men.
the
creative
sealing the
directors
deal,
set
right?
All right,
through
listen
that
though.
shit.
We
Yeah.
gotta talk, Schnars, about the culture stuff here, because like there is a strong. I wouldn't even call it undercurrent. I would call it overcurrent of like
Not subtext. It's
culture war stuff going on here, where Dennis Quaid is a gun owner. A lot of it is made of the fact that he's got many guns. He's got a big old gun cabinet that you see when you walk in the house for the first time.
Yeah, and he's older generation.
He's an older
This is a
dude.
family estate that he didn't necessarily sort of like build, like he like inherited
And
or
so it's
you
like,
know.
so you've got him versus basically like city folk. The city folk really don't like guns. They do.
They're black. I mean, like we can just
Yes. Well,
yeah,
hold on,
there's-
because that's another. Let's table that for a second, because that's another thing. But like, I think it's way more acutely focused on the gun thing, and like, they do gin up a backstory reason for why he doesn't like guns. It's not just like, oh, I'm city folk, I don't like guns, which is like,
Michael Ealy, yeah,
which is interesting, because you could have just done that because all your subtext is set up by the life we live every day. But they give him a reason, whatever. There was something tragic happened when he was a kid, or whatever. But like, there's a lot is made of the fact that like Dennis Quaid has guns and this guy doesn't, and like that makes Quaid sort of like a predator, and that makes them prey. There's literally a scene when he's in the hospital where he's watching the Nature Channel and watching like a lion like take down a deer or an elk or something, and then in the next scene, like in the third act, when Quaid is like really going nuts and stalking, they literally like weave like lion sounds into the
Well,
sound mix. Like,
it's meant to be Dennis Quaid, like
Oh
sort of
my God.
grunting and growling, but it is
I
so.
thought he was
there's a-
actually making those noises.
but no,
I did too.
no. I had
They
listen.
foleyed them later.
Yeah.
They got-
I'm a snake.
I
they're
had-
I'm
like,
a
hey, Quaid,
sneaky
you need more
snake."
growl.
I had headphones on. I don't know if you guys did, but like they were really conspicuously added animal noises, and I was laughing
Okay.
hysterically. Like, but they lean way heavy on this like alpha beta prey predator thing that like to me also it ties into the gun thing. It ties into a lot of this culture stuff. Like they cop out on some of it, but the undercurrent is there. And then straight up in the third act, the dude's wearing a red hat. Like, I'm sorry, but that's like a very conscious decision that they made.
I'm gonna throw out a couple things, and some of this is speculation, but my guess is this script has kind of been around for a little while, right? Because if you look at the screenwriter's credits, like he's written other stuff, he's written other things that I would say fall into this category. The movie Lakeview Terrace, I don't know if you remember. I think it's Samuel L. Jackson. There's like that movie Obsessed with Idris Elba. Like he's written some other movies that are kind of like in this same type of movie, but he hasn't had a credit in a while, right? So my guess is this has been around, and
Interesting.
someone was kind of like, we want to,
How do we MAGA this thing up?
yeah, and just
Or
like
the option
modernize
is
it.
running out on it.
But so here's the thing, because this is where I think you're 100% right that is the more interesting kind of reading or kind of subtext or text we can go at. I also think that the original screenplay leaned really heavy into the kind of the one that this called up for me, Straw Dogs, the whole kind of effete, educated, glasses wearing kind of.
What are you trying to say,
listen,
John?
I'm just saying, Eric, like if you wear glasses, you're obviously like a beta. So
I've
well,
often
no,
been described as effete.
but yeah,
Oh my
no,
God.
but like that whole kind of he's not quite academic. He's not coded as academic, but he's definitely not coded as like a guy who's ready to take care of a house and a country home. And
Well, I mean,
He
he says
doesn't-
it. He says, like, are you ready to put in this work? Because I don't know how to do those things. So
well, and there's a scene very early on, and this is where it's like it's not quite to the level that Eric's kind of talking about, but there's a scene where Dennis Quaid comes and mows his lawn. It's like ridiculous on its face.
At that point,
it's
I would,
also
at
like-
that point in the movie anyway, I would have been like, all right, man, cool, thanks, bro.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was immediately like, oh, that's really nice, actually. Just mowed his lawn for him.
Sweet.
Sounds like a pain in my ass, but there's this whole kind of like, Dennis Quaid is like a man's man, and I think that's even before you get the gun stuff. I do think they then tried to like mix this up and say,
No, you get the gun stuff immediately, John, because the first time you see him on screen, he comes out of the woods with a gun after shooting something.
Well, and he's got his whole his study that's got all the tapestry and the animal shit and whatnot.
but the like red hat stuff, like some of that stuff just felt like it was more, late breaking edition.
Yeah, like
No,
on the day they're like, oh shit, put this on. Yeah.
Yeah.
There, now you look like a scumbag. Congratulations.
But even like, I mean, it's not like this is, the thing is like the house is not like this cabin on a ranch, like out in the middle of nowhere. It's like a $3 million like mansion.
Exactly. So it's a weird, but it's a, but I guess like, okay, it's kind of a farm, like, so I guess I can kind of see
Well,
what they're
yeah.
going for, but it's pretty fancy.
You could say
Whatever.
though that it
Down
was
here
like
in the
old
vague
money.
South, wherever I am, that's
Well, but,
Not very
but this
impressive.
was the thing. Like Dennis Quaid couldn't afford it. Like he never quote unquote earned it. Look, it all gets kind of like undercut by the fact that
It's interesting.
but it gets the thing. I agree. It's interesting, and they could have probably ran at it harder. It gets undercut by the fact that he's just an insane person. And again, spoiler alert, he's living in the house in like a fucking, hidden room.
With a giant freezer.
Well, and this is the thing.
It's like the
I didn't-
boy all over again.
The thing that's ridiculous about this movie is like
Nobody-
they actually make a big deal about the home acquisition. When you buy a house, especially a house like this where you're spending $3 million, it is like heavily vetted. Like you would know if there was like, I don't know,
Someone
electrical
died in the
hookups.
house.
Also,
Yeah.
just occurred to me, was there no realtor?
Well, exactly.
Yeah, you don't see that part.
They would have known all of the shit about Dennis Quaid on day one because you don't just like. It's not like you roll up and like hand someone $3
I'm
million.
largely,
Like, thanks for the house. See you
yeah,
later.
I'm
Like,
largely positive you
lawyers
wouldn't.
involved.
I'm largely positive you wouldn't be able to sell a $3 million house without a realtor.
no, well, or lawyers just to sign paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like Dennis
He's just
Quaid
like, "Here's
was
the keys."
living. Yeah, Dennis Quaid was living in the fucking like walls of the house. It's like no, he would have had to have a lawyer. Who
Are we
was,
listen?
like, vetting
Listen, I
paperwork
don't want to
out
get
of-
all midsummer on you here, like with my college student theory. But are we sure that he even owned this house? He didn't fake sell it to them. Maybe he killed. Maybe he killed the people who lived there. I don't know.
I don't know.
You just like
that
made a
is
much
not-
more
It would have
interesting
been
movie.
more interesting.
That's not implied by the film, but I'll allow it. So,
I'll allow it.
yeah, I don't know. That was the thing. That at the end of this, I was like, wait a second. Oh, this was happening in the house. Like, they definitely would have found this out.
I thought, I mean, it's really nothing surprised me in this movie. My biggest aha moments, though, that tickled me that I thought they were aha moments was when she found the secret door to his room because he'd showed them the linen closet earlier. And then we find out why he's always hanging around that guard shack at the front of the house.
Yeah, I did appreciate that because I was like, oh, okay, because I couldn't figure out either. I was like, he has to be in the house.
Yeah. Well, they hear like all kinds of creaking, but also
Yeah.
that door. It looked none of it made sense because it's like it looked flimsy. Like it, you would notice if you were like pulling the drawers out or opening like
Yeah, you'd think it moved.
There's a lot of give in this.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
It
don't
was
know
very-
how the linen closet was technically a fake closet, but you know, okay.
This movie.
I mean, I will say this. I'm definitely glad I saw it on video and not in the theater. Like, I probably am a little higher on it than I would have been. I wanted more scene I wanted to call out. I really liked the scene where Dennis Quaid was daydreaming about smashing the vase over the friend's head.
Yeah.
I just wish, like, to John's point earlier, like, they just needed more of that stuff. Like, I could have done,
Yeah.
like, 10 more Dennis Quaid daydreams where he's murdering somebody. Like, because he's just, again, like, those moments give him the chance to just be even more extra.
Well, yeah, it's like I was fine with it being crazy. Like, let's just lean in and like go for the campiness. Like, I don't need
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't need to try to make it level-headed at all.
But what's
for
kind of
me.
fun about it, and like part of what I enjoyed, is that like Dennis Quaid is when maybe you could argue the actor who's playing the friend are like the only people in that movie. Like Megan Good and the husband are in a serious movie, and Dennis Quaid is not. And that I kind of enjoyed the contrast between the two styles.
My most important Dennis Quaid question is how many years do you think he took off his life by all of the roids he had to do to get as cut as he was?
Not at that age. Listen, at that age, it's not roids. It's
Look
H.
great for
It's
him, yeah.
at that age, it's HGH. That's like what.
Yeah.
That's what the
Okay.
old
Yeah.
dudes do because it keeps you. It helps you keep the mass, and it
I mean,
thins
he
you out.
still hasn't hit Sylvester Stallone levels yet, so he's got some time ahead of him.
I know. I couldn't decide if that scene was supposed to make me feel like Dennis Quaid's attractive. I was not attracted to him, but I was very confused by that.
It was
scene.
it was like
You're
just
feeling confusing emotions right
well
now.
no because
I
just
don't
the
know what
act
this is.
the act of him like taking the shirt off. You could we could do a whole episode just talking about what he thought was going to happen there.
Oh, but there's another scene where they show him taking his shirt off when he's just in his like little dungeon area. Remember
His
that?
dungeon.
Yeah.
So that's where you see him. You're like, all right, he's pretty jacked.
But going back to how clueless they made Megan Good in this movie, when he shows up out of nowhere, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then he's like, "I just thought we'd eat dinner. I'm gonna go clean up." And she's like, "Okay."
Cool, dude. Thanks, bro. That was nice of you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The fact that she was in the shower, she walks into she answers the door in her robe, and then she's like, "You're not going to make me eat this alone, are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, girl."
That
Girl.
That was left over from the Skinamax script.
Yeah, that was the single most
So I was like, no time for this.
yeah.
Ah.
Are we? Is this not Me Too? Has that not happened? Is it? Like,
You're right, though. I definitely think even just simple stuff like that, the dynamics with the character, like it does feel like an older script that
Yeah.
got doctored a little bit.
strange.
It never
Ah.
ceases to amaze me the kind of shit that gets made nowadays, John.
Yeah. No. Wait, what did? And there's something else. Michael Ealy's like the star of something else coming up, right?
Jacob's Ladder reboot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like this might
Wow.
be a good, like, we get people a lot of times who write in, they're like, oh, like my partner doesn't love horror, like, you have any good recommendations? Like, but no, but sometimes people who don't like horror, they're not gonna like your like highbrow artsy. This is like Dusty recommending
Hold on.
Midsummer to
But
his
they
I don't
know
know,
it's
coworker
a good movie, right?
or Hereditary.
Yeah,
Like my point is like, we don't think it's a good movie, but I think there's actually a like segment of fans, like not genre fans, that would enjoy this and be like, oh, that was
Oh,
totally
100%, yeah.
digestible.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have
And
started
it's
with like,
not, and it's not,
did you and your significant other have a brain injury?
and it's not overly terrifying. That's really bold coming from you with that mustache, John. I just want to say that.
Well, like Shelton said earlier, this is something my mom would watch and say without scary.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that's literally my point. Is like I think that there's like I'm not saying us. I'm not saying anyone listening to the show. I'm saying like if you have a person that's a big like scaredy cat of horror, like this is a pretty kid gloves like thriller that that kind of person might be into.
I think the crazy third act rapiness is out of nowhere is going to kill that, though.
Well, I mean I don't know about killing.
But
It's
that's, I mean, I don't really know how to say this in the most like,
do it.
in the most delicate way. Like instead of there being like more traditional horror elements, the horror of this is the like super creepy rape scene, which is what, people who don't normally
That's something you'd
go
see
horror
more.
movies.
Yeah, that's something you would see more in like a normal film, not like the genre stuff we
Right.
watch.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not supernatural. It's not, like a slasher
Yeah.
killer.
Yeah.
Just a creepy old dude, man. Everybody can relate to knowing creepy old dudes, you know?
Some of us are creepy.
Some of us are slowly becoming that.
I hope to God y'all are not that creepy old.
I've
dude,
never
because
licked a neck like that before.
Right.
don't do any HGH, please.
No promises.
I looked like Quaid.
It's probably
I
too
don't know.
expensive. Yeah.
Can you not tell I've been doing HGH?
Would that grow my hair back?
Is that what you smoke in the vape? Is that just
HG smokes HGH.
HGH?
Yes, Eric, and according to my back, it will grow your hair.
Oh, gross. Gross. No, thank you.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I think I said this before, but there's always like when I lived in South Florida, every gym, and this is probably like in a lot of major cities now, but every gym would have like pamphlets for like, hey, do you have low testosterone? And it's like the
Low
vast,
T, dude.
yeah, the vast majority of people don't, but you could go to these shady South Florida doctors and they'll just like fake the tests and give you steroids basically.
Well, you can buy them at GNC now for that
I was
shit.
gonna say, yeah, they don't even need to do it in the gym.
Nah,
anymore.
that shit's not the real thing, man. You need like the real deal.
Yeah, but they're selling it the same way.
I'll hook you up.
for the same reasons.
I'll hook you up with a guy. I'm just kidding. Clearly, I don't know a guy, or I would look better. All right, guys. Would you recommend?
There's been a lot of soul searching on this episode. So.
Oh, God. I mean, you really do lose muscle mass as you get older, John. You got to really work to keep it up, you know?
I don't know. I got to put that work in, you know?
Yeah. Would you recommend this movie, Cece?
No.
Shelton?
Nah.
Casey?
No.
John?
No.
I think if it's on and you have literally nothing,
Yeah.
don't put it on yourself, but if someone
Do
else,
not put this out.
Like-
If you're experiencing low T, you might...
this will bring you out of it because this movie is horny as hell. This will
If you're
spike your
visiting
tea right up.
parents and they put it on, you can stay in the room.
Actually, yeah, you know what? Actually, maybe this is better advice. If A, you're experiencing low T, and B, this movie sounded good to you, I'm gonna refer you to a 90s series called Poison Ivy, which is gonna give you what you actually want.
There you go.
There you go.
Starring the
Oh.
lovely, I think Drew Barrymore was in those movies.
Yes.
Does that sound
The
right?
first one.
Yeah. There you go. Take it
I
to
would,
the bank.
yeah. I recommend you subscribe to Cinemax circa 1993.
No, you don't subscribe. You just watch it scrambled and just listen for the
Yeah,
moaning.
well,
You squint your eyes. You can get
I
the-
certainly, yeah. That was my experience.
And if you got real lucky, you'd see a boob, and that was the best day of your life, John. Times were simpler back then.
Today.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for The Intruder. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Once there was a man whose prison was a chair. The man had a monkey. They made the strangest pair.
Jeff, what is it?
The monkey ruled the man. It climbed inside his head.
Stop!
Now, as fate would have it, one of them is dead. Monkey Shines, an experiment in fear. Rated R. Starts Friday, July 29th at a theater near you.
Hi, I'm Heather Langenkamp, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. John, this bumper reminded me. Big things, new things coming to Bloody Good Horror very soon. We decided that we're going to do some new music, John. So I've been in the lab, so to speak.
I heard.
Which
You know.
is my kitchen.
You put it on your lab coat.
My kitchen table, mostly on my laptop. Yeah, I've been working on some new music for the show. It'll be the first time ever that we've had music produced in house. It's also the first new kind of makeover we've had since like 2014. I'm pretty sure this current sound we launched on or around the Patreon, which was 2014. So it's mostly done. And if you're a patron already, we sent out a preview yesterday. So if you missed it, you can go check your Patreon inbox. You should get emails when you get those messages, and you can check out the new intro, John. How do you feel about the new intro, John?
I'm just grooving to it every morning now.
You just
I wake
rock it out?
up,
Yeah.
I get my groove, and then
Yeah,
I go about my day.
I'm pretty psyched about it. My main thing was I wanted to maintain the energy because I feel like most shows were like shambling in here, getting started, and then like that music is just like, you got to get that. You got to have something hype to get your head right. You know what I mean?
It does lock us in. For people who watch the pre-show, they can tell that we're a little sometimes.
It's like a switch flips. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not on, and that's
so.
that's
We're pretty excited. It's gonna launch by the end of this month at the latest. Might have it sooner, but definitely it'll be rocking in time for spooky season.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting. I don't believe we have any emails this week. I'm gonna look again really quick. Correct.
Get them in now, people.
No emails. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. I do believe we have tweets though.
Yes, we do. We have 2 hashtags out there we use for Twitter. First one is hashtag BGH Classics. If you're our patron and going through our back catalog, here's something funny. Tag it with BGH Classics and let us know. Our first one up is from our good friend Mi Corazon Mia Moore. She says, all I can think about is pooping on things, which was Eric on what he do during The Purge from episode 373,
This made
The
me
Purge
laugh.
Anarchy.
This made me laugh today because I don't remember saying that, and I was instantly like, yeah, no, I think in my head, that's still where my head's at. If you ask me, like, what would I do during the purge, it would just be like, what do I want to poop on? Because you can't do that on a normal day.
Yeah, exactly.
Just poop on stuff. I don't know. It just sounds like a lot of fun.
It's good to have goals.
It's all about breaking norms, right, John?
There you go.
Just be
Get it.
Just be yourself. I feel
Our other BGH classic is also from me, Corazon Mia Moore, and this is a little back and forth with Schnars, Mark, and Eric. First up, we have Schnars saying, if anything, I will be the most full-throated supporter of this movie. To which Mark replies, are you sure you want to go in with your whole throat? Schnars comes back with, we can compete for throatedness. To which Eric's reply is simply, stop. That's from episode 325. It follows.
No, thank you.
All right. Our other hashtag out there for Twitter is AskBGH. You got a question for us? You want some life advice or anything floating on your mind that you wanted us to answer? Tag it with AskBGH. First up, we have another longtime listener at Skizbot. Question for Schnars. As a former guardian of rare tomes, have you ever seen the movie American Animals? It's about the bonkers real-life heist of a Kentucky University rare books library in 2004. and it
It's a
was
really
easily
good
one of his
movie.
favorite
Oh,
films of
I was
last
gonna say
year.
Cece would lose her shit about this movie.
I have already seen it, and yes, I agree. It was really, really good. I would wholly recommend it.
Well, there you go.
John.
It has the creepy kid from to Killing of a Sacred Deer, I think, and then
Ah.
Evan Peters.
Yeah, so I haven't seen this movie. Now that y'all mention it, and I like saw the cover, I'm aware of it. I didn't
I
realize
was
that's
saying
what
it
it's
got
about.
a little bit of push for a second in some indie theaters, but it was
Yeah.
kind of just like a blip there.
John doesn't
I think
really
it's
want to
British.
talk about it because he was a member of the crew that stole all these books, so he didn't want to bring
Those
attention to
books
it.
are now in the
Yeah,
Duke
I-
Library.
Now that I know that is the plot of the movie,
Oh my
I
God.
will want to watch it.
That's the thread, Shelton, is that he wants to beef up Duke's library, and so he goes and steals from other people's
Yeah.
libraries.
Was 2004
I-
when you would be protecting rare books at Duke?
That sounds like a
It was- yeah, it
Duke.
was
That sounds like a
similar.
Duke.
Timeline checks out.
That sounds like a Duke thing to do, just like, stealing all the wealth of knowledge from everyone else and just
Yeah.
keeping
Sounds
it,
like a dookie thing to do.
keeping it
I
for
will
themselves.
tell you, they definitely didn't pay me enough to risk, arrest for felony theft or anything. So,
Okay, keep pretending. That's fine.
but good shot. I'm gonna check that out for sure.
There you go. Next one's up from Cody Yolo. Which is worse, Blair Witch 2 or American Psycho 2?
F you, Blair Witch 2 is a fucking work of art, and you get out of my mentions, please.
I
Thank
was
you.
gonna
It's
say
just
that's
straight
an
trolling,
Eric.
right?
Yeah,
That's
that's
an Eric
a
troll
clear
question.
Eric baiting.
Blair Witch 2 is awesome.
I've actually never seen either of them, I will say. So,
It's
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
watch
go with
it-
Eric on this one. Blair Witch 2
I watch it yearly, still.
is the good one.
that
'cause-
seems like
I
more
will
frequently
say, here's
necessary, but-
what I will say. I didn't watch it when it came out, so like, because I was a huge Blair Witch fan, and I just was like, I don't want to do that to myself, because you know what I mean? Because it just at the time, like, people just like unmercilessly shit on that thing. I saw it years later, and I was like, dude, what is everybody? So I think I had a lot of that. You go in, you're like, everybody hates this thing. I got to find out how bad this is, and I'm like, seeing it without the weight of like expecting it to follow up from the original Blair Witch, it's like a really fun B movie.
There you go.
It's got great like creepy Halloween atmosphere too, which I like.
I suspect Cody knew what he was getting into when he posted that. I hope so.
He's canceled.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The only thing I remember about American Psycho 2 is it had Mila Kunis in it.
Mila Kunis, yeah.
Yeah, her too. Next up, where we have from @CO_W Flanagan. This is kind of a question, more of a statement, but it seems fun. Yo, I always wanted to be a Dracula. I'm OS. OS means old school. Would you be a Dracula if you could? I know old Schnars would do it in the heartbeat.
You know what movie
He'd be
makes
sucking them poor people off like a madman. Much respect to you and yours.
What do you think, John? Would you suck poor people off?
Like a madman.
I'm gonna withhold statement.
You know what movie always makes me like contemplate this is Interview with the Vampire, because it's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite vampire movie. But again, I mean, that whole movie is just about like how tortured it is to like be alive forever. It does seem kind of cool though. I like the idea of like living through different eras of history.
I mean, living for like 200 years seems cool. Living
Yeah.
for like 500
2000.
years, or 2000 is like.
I
yeah,
think the problem is that, you're kind of tied into it. Like if this were a universe in which I had a vampire out where like you could just choose to end it whenever you wanted, might be good.
Well, you just go outside. I mean, it's not that hard.
That's true.
Like during the day.
That's true.
Duh.
You do have an easy out, John. John makes.
But
it
doesn't that in the Interview with the Vampire, doesn't that not kill? Or no, what? No, they make Lestat drink like the blood of somebody who's already dead for a while or something, right? Isn't that what makes him all shrivelly? And then he goes and lives in the swamp. Has no one ever seen this movie? It's fucking Interview with the
Yes,
Vampire.
but
Are you
I mean,
kidding me?
it's been
Not
so
since
long.
1994.
I'm trying.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so
well,
good.
Yeah.
I've seen it since then, but I can't remember.
It's so good. Brad Pitt is a literal angel in that movie. He's beautiful.
I don't think I've seen it since I last owned pleather pants.
What?
I don't know. I think we need to move on.
I'm just saying.
That's as close as I got to my goth face. Sorry.
Is there a picture of this?
No. Next one up is a hard-hitting question from longtime listener at Robale. How long do you keep Mayo? Once I open a jar, it's getting tossed in a week.
What?
What?
I
Are
don't
you
buy
high?
Mayo. Gross.
That's ludicrous.
No, you keep
I
it
mean,
till
a week is...
it's Mayo. If you keep it in the fridge, it's frigging indestructible. That shit will last forever.
Yeah,
Are you
I don't think
kidding
I've
me?
ever had mayo go bad.
And I
No.
like Mayo, but
Forever is a long time.
Ever. Forever.
There's
ever.
a middle ground here between 1 week and forever that I would...
No, that is Listen, if you're not comfortable with a Mayo that's more than a week old, maybe Mayo might just not be for you. I think.
yeah.
I think you should try another condiment. Like, might I introduce you to mustard, which definitely
Yeah.
never goes bad as long as you shake it up.
I
agree.
I see myself as a fairly, big fan of Mayo. I like to put it on my burgers and everything like that, but I'm not going to eat a jar of it in a week. How much are you eating?
I'm gonna really discuss CC right now. I used to eat Mayo sandwiches when I was a kid.
Oh my god.
It is my favorite.
I mean,
it is.
I used to eat mustard sandwiches, so I can't really be too mad. But mayo is just not my jam. at all.
It's my favorite food, bar none. I would eat it out of the jar. I
My
don't care what
God.
it's on.
Favorite food?
Like for me, if you think of something like a tuna melt, great. Like tuna is just a vehicle for mayo. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
The mayo's doing all the work in that sandwich.
I don't know if it's a real thing, but
I have a lot of
Delaney's
thoughts.
boyfriend was born in Ecuador, and he claims it's an Ecuadorian thing, but I've watched that dude put mayo on pizza.
I put ranch dressing on pizza. That's a stone's throw away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just a step away.
We better move on.
John,
'cause
don't
I'm gonna-
shake your head at me.
throw up right
I
now.
guarantee you,
Hey, I will
people,
dip the hell out of a fry in mayo.
dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, fries.
Oh,
and
all
mayo for
right.
sure.
That's not crazy.
Chick-fil-A waffle fries and mayo.
You
is
get
pretty
a
amazing.
little mayo and a little ketchup, and you make a little secret sauce in your mouth there, John.
You betcha. All right, our last question
guys,
comes from
Guys, I love mayonnaise a lot.
Yeah, apparently.
It's so.
This is a new thing.
In fact,
Are
it's
we
really-
You're
talking-
making secret sauce
Yeah.
in your mouth.
It's really
12
funny that
years
this came out tonight because I don't have any in the house right now, and it's causing me anxiety.
Oh, God.
All right, our
It's
last
so
tweet
good.
here is from a longtime listener, first-time tweeter at Small Bean is Needy. She says, "Hey guys, longtime fan. I don't know if this has been asked before, but what's your favorite horror movie to shit on?" And I don't think they're talking about you and Serge, Eric.
For years, and I haven't seen this in years, so I don't even know if this is how I feel about this movie anymore, but I didn't really like Trick or Treat the first time I saw it. I just thought it was kind of boring. And I loved shitting in that movie for years, especially in the show, because it makes people livid when you say bad things about that movie.
I think I was mostly with you on that. I guess for me it's all the trauma movies because I get it. I quote unquote get it, but I also just don't get it. And I don't
That's
know.
fair.
So I don't know. That's a pretty niche thing to say you're shitting on. It feels inappropriate to say I'm shitting on.
Like you're
it.
kicking.
Yeah, it's supposed to be shit on.
Like you're kicking someone when they're down.
Yeah, it's like guys, they don't have anything.
Speaking
else.
of guys, we got to get in Class of Nukem High Volume 2 this year.
Oh, yeah.
we absolutely do not need to do that.
Yeah, we do. We did the first one, John. You're gonna just leave
Yeah.
that? You're gonna be satisfied just leaving that chapter open in your life?
I think we may need you to rewatch the first one,
I'm
John.
pretty sure I was completely hammered because I don't.
Oh! You just reminded me because I watched the sequel to this really drunk. But Rob Zombie's Halloween's. I will never get tired of dunking on Rob Zombie's Halloween because it's trash.
Lord.
Or 31.
And Rob Zombie's everything else.
And there's a
Yeah.
definite generational divide that's developed too, where I feel like younger people who maybe were introduced to that first definitely are way more into it than if people a little older. And I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It's bad. I'm enjoying trashing it right now.
I went through a phase where I really hated Silence of the Lambs. I just told everybody, which is it's a great one to tell people that.
Wow,
That
yeah.
movie's super great.
Yeah,
And
but
then I rewatched it a month ago.
but to the asker's question, those are the most fun movies to shit on because it gets people riled up.
But he's just wrong.
Well, I mean, okay,
there's
Jodie
nothing-
Foster.
You're
not
proving the
bad.
point. You're
Anthony
proving the
Hopkins
point, John.
is really overrated.
It's a really, really good movie.
It is. It's it's objectively an incredible film.
Yeah. I'm getting upset even thinking about
I
this
mean,
right now.
art is subjective. Silence of the Lambs is not.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're reacting in just the way Shelton wanted you to.
You're fired, Sheldon.
Have you guys seen Red Dragon? Hannibal Rising?
We'll get Andy. We'll get Andy to finish the trivia.
Hold on, the man-eater though, or not man? No, is it man-eater? What's the first?
Manhunter.
Man.
Yeah.
No, is it Manhunter?
It's Manhunter. I
Manhunter.
own that on VHS, but I've never seen it. I did see
With
Hannibal.
that dude from CSI or whatever it was.
It's Brian Cox. It's
it's
like
The
Hannibal.
only scene I
Is
remember.
the superior Hannibal, or the second best Hannibal.
The only
actor,
scene
really.
I remember from the original Hannibal, from
Mads.
like the early 2000s, was Ray Liotta at the dinner table with like no top of his head.
Fucking me.
So stupid.
Yeah, I saw that movie in the theater, and that's all I remember as well.
It's not great. It's not great. I like Julianne more though. She's delightful, but it's not great.
Oh yeah, she's always great.
Like, why not just cast Jodie Foster?
Jodie Foster was probably like, I'm not fucking doing this again,
She
guys.
says so.
Probably.
It's fair. Good show.
That's
guys.
it for tweets, folks. So if you're out there, always remember, use Ask a BGH hashtag or BGH Classics if you're combing through the back catalog.
Last thing I wanted to point out tonight on the show was that, if you recall from the beginning of tonight's episode, John was very confident that if you Googled Spooktoberfest, you'd find our information for our event. Shelton, when you did that, Shelton, when you did that, what page were we on?
Well, you know, I Googled it and it wasn't on the first page, but you know, whatever. Oh, there goes my Google. Took 6 pages, page 6. That's where we are. But it's the second from the top. On
That
page
makes
6,
Shelton.
so.
That makes Shelton the first person who's ever gone to page 6 of a Google search.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. No, but if you search Spooktoberfest 2019,
And then you click, I'm feeling lucky.
come on, we were number 3. Number 3. You know what? Maybe BGH Spooktoberfest. Mess around, folk. You'll find it.
You know how to Google.
Yeah, you can figure
Or
it out.
just go to bloodygoodhorror.com and check out the link.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
Thank you, Casey.
I just wanted to dunk on John there. Speaking of things I like to dunk on. We don't know what we're doing next week. Potentially Brightburn, but we got a whole list of stuff that we missed in theaters that we are trying to...
Or we got new hot stuff in theaters.
I was going to say,
Oh.
weren't you the one advocating for theater? next
You're
week?
right. We got to do that Del Toro thing. What is that? Scary Stories or something?
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
That Del Toro thing.
Scary Stories to poop in the dark too. Never done that. I should try it. Sounds scary.
In the dark.
That's not true. Every once in a while you're at work and like, you know, they have those like
The motion sensor light.
Motion
Yeah.
lights, you're just like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just in this
well,
now.
apparently I died
it
in
was
this
Chipotle
toilet
day.
and I haven't moved in 8 minutes, so here we are. Good times. All right, guys. That's going to do it. Shelton, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me,
Thank
guys.
you to everybody for listening. That has been The Intruder, Dennis Quaid's magnum opus. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week, folks.
See you.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.